2024 ਆਟੋ ਥੈਫਟ ਸਮਿਟ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਿ ਪੀਲ ਰੀਜਨਲ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਦੀ ਸੈਕੰਡ ਐਨੂਅਲ ਆਟੋ ਥੈਫਟ ਸਮਿਟ ਸੀਗੀ। ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਦੋ ਆਟੋ ਸਮਿਟ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕੀਆਂ। ਇੱਕ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੇ ਆਟੋਆ 'ਚ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ ਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਆਟੋ ਸਮਿਟ। ਪੀਲ ਰੀਜਨਲ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਦੀ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਸਾਲ 2023 'ਚ ਆਟੋ ਸਮਿਟ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਵਾਲੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ 2024 ਦੀ ਸੈਕੰਡ ਐਨੂਅਲ ਆਟੋ ਸਮਿਟ। ਇਹਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ डिफरेंट रीजनस के पुलिस चीफ उन्होंने हिस्सा लिता। फैडरल सरकार और प्रोविंस सरकार तो जोड़े नुमाइंदे सी उन्होंने भी मिनिस्टर्स ने भी ये हिस्सा लिता। डिस्कस किए गए कि किहड़े तरीके नाल ऑटो जी थैफ्टां नूं रोकिया जा सकता है और यह भी विचार होया कि ऑटो थैफ्ट ऑटो थैफ्ट नहीं रही, आ एक मुद्दा बन गया नैशनल क्राइसिस जिहदे अंदर होम इन्वेजन्स वायलेंट क्राइम सारा कुछ शामिल है। देखते हैं कुछ हाईलाइट्स और गलबात करांगे चीफ ऑफ पुलिस दे नाल। Canadians want to know, are we in circles? Because when we interviewed one of the deputy chief and he said there is a barriers for the professional police forces and we cannot cross those barriers. In last, how this auto summit is different than previous two, which was a national level also. And in last auto summit, as chief mentioned, in last auto summit by the Peel Police, the CBSA was there, but they were not the participant in the discussion. They were there, they were watching what is happening, but they were not the participant. What is the outcome of today's auto summit? Were the politicians here? Because in Brampton, we have 5 members of parliaments, 3 MPPs, the councillors. Only one person who speaks loudly is Mayor Brown. Every time he was vocal, otherwise all the politicians, we never saw them in any of the media to come and discuss this issue. And thanks to Peel Police who highlighted this issue day and night, and we salute our police officers because they are there for us. But where are the politicians and how can we control it? If Mayor Brown can make a video from Ottawa, promotional video even though, but where are the other member of parliaments or MPPs, and how police can cross those barriers to bring politician on the board and do something? As Mayor said that 3 years for the scanners coming is not the solution. Either Mayor or Deputy Chief can answer, or Deputy Chief. Thank you.
Just to say, it was heartening to see Minister Vrani here today. He's the Federal Justice Minister. And also Michael Kersner, the Solicitor General, has been very active on the file. I would say in 2022, the government was absent from the conversation. That's not the case today, so I don't think we're going in a cycle. I think this is positive that we have all the key partners at the table. I think the question now is there the urgency to accept the solutions that law enforcement has recommended?
And if I could, I want to thank you for the question because I think you hit it right on the head. And we don't want to go around in circles. I said during the conference, one of my phrases over the years is, I hate wasting people's time, especially my own. And this is the third conference, and we need results. I thank the individuals beside me and what our enforcement officials do, but you understand that these are the tail end of the system. They get the call when your car's gone. Nobody standing here is responsible for your car being gone. We don't build them, we don't manufacture them, we don't create the new technologies to prevent cars from being stolen. We can't mandate that they're included in automobiles. We learned today that the legislation to deal with the upgrading of automobile standards hasn't been dealt with in Canada since 2007. So your question is very, very well put. On the positive side, I think we were listened to today. I think we put the questions that you put saying we're hearing about devices, we're hearing about maybe not having the ports be so porous. Mayor Brown has led the charge, as you quite rightly say, on what should be done and what we can do and some of the low-hanging fruit. And so on behalf of the organizations and the people that are here today and who they represent, we're doing the best we can, but you're calling us after the dike is broken. And we need their help to repair the dike, and I put Mayor Brown at the vanguard. The ministers were both here. They're listening. They have come a long way, but we still have a way to go. Thank you very much for your question.
Follow-up is, follow-up is for Chief from Toronto. Officer Jeff Northrop, the person who was involved, he's out on bail. Being a police chief, we salute all police officers because they are there for us, saving us day and night. How you feel being a police chief that person who committed that crime, he is out on bail?
Thank you for your question. And what you will know is that case is currently before the court. The trial, I think, just started on Monday. So, I'd be remiss to speak, before the facts have been heard. in that matter. But what I can say is this: that the facts would have been put before, the court. They would have to weigh the conditions, and we have to trust that our system made the right decision, even though personally we may have, take a position on that. Without having all the facts, I don't think it's fair for me to say, that justice wasn't done with respect to providing bail to that individual.
I tell you, it's been such an intensive 5 or 6 hours from 7 or 8 a.m. this morning. And I first want to thank the organizers, the people that made this possible behind the scenes, and our chief and the Peel Regional Police Service and all the efforts that they've done on this file, and my board as well. We were here a year ago and we were talking about this problem, and I'm so proud of how Peel has been at the vanguard. And yet look at all the partners that we have here, 9 service agencies working together on this very critical issue. I think Deputy Chief Milinovich said it well, as did the chief and some of the other chiefs. We've come a long way in a year, and yet we're at a critical point, because it's gotten to the point where we're starting to address the problems. I think our partners are more acutely aware of the challenges, and yet it's as critical as it's been in many cases. As one of the chiefs said, when it gets to the point where there's carjackings at gunpoint, and when it gets to the point where people are knocking down your doors at 3 a.m., it's no longer the kids just taking a car for a joyride. And it means a great deal to all of us that people know that they live in peace and tranquility and safely in their communities and in their front yards and in their garages. So this is a big issue. So on the one hand, I praise everyone for all that has been done, but we're not resting on our laurels. There is so much more to do. And that's why I think our symposium today, our summit today, has been such a huge success, because I think everyone is acutely aware of that. So nice work that's been done, still much, much more to do. And my thanks to everybody involved that have made this a success and are redoubling our efforts to get rid of this scourge in our community.
Earlier today here in Peel, we had the privilege of hosting, which is our 2nd annual Auto Theft Summit. And I do want to acknowledge the police leadership that is behind us here. Of the largest affected police agencies for this auto theft crisis here in Ontario, inclusive of 8 municipal police services and, of course, the OPP and the OPP commissioner that's here. Across the policing perspective, we've been working hand in hand significantly for a long time on this issue. We know that the public continues to face the pressures and the vulnerability, but they need to know that there's a strong connection between agencies. And here today are Durham Regional Police Service, Halton Regional Police, Hamilton Regional Police, Niagara Regional Police, the Ontario Provincial Police, Peel Regional Police, Toronto Police Service, York Regional Police, as well as the Criminal Intelligence Service of Ontario and the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police that represents all the police agencies. All of their representatives work extremely hard behind the scenes. But what makes today extremely unique is that it wasn't just police sector here. And the same thing as last year, we want to recognize that today represented our automotive industry partners, manufacturers, dealers, distribution, parts, insurance, advocacy agencies such as the CAA. All of them were here again for the 2nd year, and I am abbreviating the list of entities, and on the media release you will see a list of the alliance partners. All of you know that organized crime is a factor in many different elements that cause risk to our community. It needs to be stated that this is organized auto theft that we are dealing with, that are facing issues, as was mentioned by Chair Yanika. The nature of these auto thefts, as we've seen, are now shifting to things like home invasions, carjackings, and the use of illegal firearms. 2 of the agencies that have been here today have seen a 400% increase in home invasions in the last 1 year. We know and recognize that these trends are becoming an increasingly grave concern for residents and for public safety. And if you have an opportunity to speak to Mayor Brown, he hears it from his constituents, the community daily, and can articulate it really well. In 2023, the collective data between Peel, Toronto, York, Durham, Halton, Hamilton, Niagara, Ottawa, and the OPP showed a 116% increase in auto thefts since 2019. You need to know that in this last year, a significant amount of efforts have been made in the area of auto thefts. Over 16,000 auto thefts have been recovered jointly with a value of over $545 million. In this last year also, thank you to the province as well as the OPP in Toronto for coordinating the establishment of a provincial carjacking joint task force, which all of these entities and agencies have participated in since October of last year. Since then, that task force has laid over 730 criminal charges and recovered over 150 vehicles, including the seizure of numerous firearms and contraband. I want to share that in aiming to address auto theft and the challenges that we are seeing, we recognize there needs to be a collective endeavor to protect the neighborhoods that we all serve and ensure that lives and the community's safety are not put at risk. The purpose of today is to say that we recognize it is not one sector or one entity's responsibility alone to solve this. It cannot be fixed alone. And the recognition as of today and as of this last year is that valuable partners and stakeholders, whether it be the auto industry, the policing sector, all levels of government need to come together to find a solution for organized auto theft. That is why last year's summit, law enforcement came together with government and the auto sector to advocate for paths forward. We know that by increasing our collaborative efforts and implementing targeted investigations and interventions, we can disrupt organized auto theft. At today's summit, we had over 150 representatives of the largest police services, and there have been representatives from Vancouver all the way to Halifax joining the agencies here, along with government officials, auto manufacturers, and insurance industries, as I said, distribution, advocacy partners committed to tackling this issue. Through active participation and meaningful discussions today, we have transpired and come to two key recommendations under two large areas. The first is strengthening enforcement efforts that remain the cornerstone of disrupting auto theft. And that's just not from a policing perspective. We believe auto theft must be prioritized as a national priority, and the federal government must double down on its ability to make inspections at ports of exit, where inspections of containers at intermodal ports, like right here in neighboring agencies like York or in Peel, are connected to ports of export like Montreal that have a high volume of stolen autos leaving this country. I need to be clear, of the autos that are being stolen here in Ontario, 80% are destined for exportation. In addition to the enforcement enhancements, we do believe that legislative tools and the appropriate sanctions are required for organized auto theft. We do also believe that a national action plan to tackle organized auto theft needs to occur, which also means enhanced investments in our abilities to police this at a national level. The second big area is making the collaboration between multi-sector stakeholders a sustainable piece. The collaboration, raising awareness with our residents, can protect against auto theft, whether it be by anti-theft technologies, enhancing security measures around homes, looking at registries, and out of today came multiple solutions that we intend on exploring in the year to come. In closing, I want to express my gratitude to all those that were here today. As was stated earlier, the police leaders and elected officials that are behind me are available to respond to some of the nuances and challenges that we're facing, but also the solutions. Just to be clear, today is a day that we have not seen as it pertains to risk in our community, where we've seen multiple sectors come together to bring solutions in a coordinated fashion and also commit to sustaining this as we move forward. Our recommendations and guiding actions are intended to mitigate this harm that is affecting our community. We know the vulnerability it causes to families, to individuals, to neighborhoods is so significant. The public needs to know that auto theft is one thing, but once it crosses a line, and I'm going to call it the red line, where it compromises people's homes, their safety, carjackings, their ability to go out in public, or to even leave their children home alone at the fear that somebody might be entering their home for a set of car keys, is too much. And we are all committed to drawing the line right there.
I just want to say thank you to Chief Nish for organizing this second Auto Theft Summit. This is terrorizing our residents. And wherever you live in Ontario or Quebec, we're seeing numbers that have skyrocketed. This is a gift to organized crime. $1.2 billion in 2022. Right here is some of the smartest minds when it comes to law enforcement, who dedicate every hour of the day to keeping us safe. And when Chief Nish mentions the solutions that are before us that could help us really suffocate and disrupt this flourishing criminal enterprise, delay is not an option. I actually don't want to go to future auto theft summits. I'm hoping we can solve it. I've been to the first Peel Auto Theft Summit, went to the National Auto Theft Summit, spoke there, and of course we have this summit today. I'm looking forward to the solutions which have been articulated by law enforcement being acted upon by government. I equate this auto theft crisis to a giant bucket of water, and there's a hole, and water is leaking out. That's the Port of Montreal right now. We need to make sure we have scanning capacity at our hubs and our ports to make sure that stolen goods can't be so easily taken out of our country. The same rigorous approach we have for imports we must have for exports. Because if we don't, my worry is, no matter how hard law enforcement works, and you hear about increasing numbers in terms of arrest and repatriation of cars, unless we deal with this hole in the bucket, it doesn't matter if we have a 14% police budget increase, it's going to continue to be a crisis in our country. I really hope that the solutions articulated by the team here today will be heard, and that very soon in the future that residents are going to get a sign of relief, that we're not going to see doors being banged down and violent carjackings. Because of the funds at stake, north of 1.2 billion, criminal organizations are going to extreme lengths to seize upon this. Delay is not an option. 3 years to get scanners, as the funding's over 3 years. I want to see that procurement out yesterday. I want to see those scanners not only in the Brampton Intermodal Hub, but in Vaughan and the Port of Montreal yesterday.
ਪੀਲ ਰੀਜਨ 'ਚ ਅੱਜ ਆਟੋ ਸਮਿਟ ਸੀਗੀ ਸੈਕੰਡ ਐਨੂਅਲ ਆਟੋ ਸਮਿਟ ਬਾਈ ਪੀਲ ਰੀਜਨਲ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਚੀਫ this is a good step, but question is like what is the outcome of these, because we had a first auto summit, now this is a second, there was a national auto summit, and what will be the outcome of these things?
So really I think the outcome of this and the value is that we are doing our best to compel the auto industry, other stakeholders, to continue to be part of the solution for this. Because, even in Ottawa at the Federal Auto Summit, it was our opportunity to tell the federal government about our issue. But outside of that, there is no collaborative network that is committed to try to find solutions. So out of today, we have the auto manufacturers, the sales and distribution, auto parts, insurance, advocacy groups like CAA, and also other federal entities that are helping to, as well as all the police agencies, trying to come up with a multitude of solutions that we're going to commit to working on. Because outside of that, Nitin, if we didn't coordinate today, we would have waited another year probably for something. And as you can see, even the nature of the auto thefts have changed, right? I think because people are now smarter, they block their cars in, they're using aftermarket, their prevention techniques. Now we've seen the criminals, they no longer get it off the driveway, they're going in the house.
In the house, yeah.
And so, things are shifting. People are buying steel doors for their houses. As the mayor said earlier, it's too late. We need to find solutions that, we have to stop the export
So recommendations to the federal government, the ports, the intermodals. So today was really about make sure let's now commit to doing these pieces of work. Unfortunately, there's no way to make all these stakeholders commit to it.
Yeah.
We have to trust their goodwill and partnership. So today we spent a lot of time about agreeing that it's all of our commitment. We have a commitment to community to ensure that they're safe, right?
So this is a national crisis?
It is a national crisis, absolutely. I would even say that it's an international crisis because internationally our country is now known as a source for stolen cars. On an international basis, we are seen it affects our reputation as a country.
Yes.
So it really is, and people, although it affects us the most here in Peel and Toronto and York, we're trying to make sure that everybody knows it funds organized crime right across this country.
Yes. Chief, police has the barriers. Police works as a professional force and cannot cross those barriers. But there was a statement that community needs to do advocacy to the politicians and media needs to do advocacy to the politicians. Being a chief for all the regions, they need to do the advocacy at the premier level, at the prime minister level, and that's why federal summit happened. But what is the reason that governments, they are not acting? It's too late, as you mentioned, as everybody's saying, it's too late. What is the reasons that government never acted on these serious, heinous crimes?
Well, it's hard for me to comment on from the government perspective. I do believe, as you know, if you watch even at the federal level, there are a lot of competing priorities of the day, right? And some of them are not public safety, might be foreign related issues. So there are many competing agendas. I think that is why I think you heard Chair Unica and Mayor Brown ask the public to ask their local officials to advocate, because the more they become aware that it's an issue, they too. And now I have to acknowledge today there were other mayors from other cities like Richmond Hill and Port Colborne that were here also to support the issue because I think they see it as important. But as you know, we here in Peel have the highest rate per capita. So that's why it's such a priority for us.
So governments need to do more and more and more, because whatever they do, that won't be enough.
Well, I think the government, alongside law enforcement, auto industry, if we all, we've done a lot of a listing of potential solutions. If there's an ability to consider them, to see where they can invest in them, I think we will see the impact of this reduce.
Finally, in this auto summit today, it was mentioned that we discussed the auto theft and we discussed how to reduce the auto theft. So instead of reducing it, can we eliminate also from our system, or is just we can reduce it?
Before people were cloning the cars or doing carjackings, I think auto theft has always existed to a smaller scale. But if you remember, 20 years ago, it might have been just a young person stealing it to drive from Brampton to Mississauga, right? And what we're seeing now is a completely different crime. It's stolen to be resold for profit. I believe we can stop that to a large extent. I really do. Because, 20 years ago, that was not, although it happened, it was revinned and resold fraudulently. It didn't represent the majority of auto theft. So I do believe at minimal we can reduce it to where it might have been in previous years.
So police forces are doing their best to control it at the moment?
We are, and there's a lot of frustration from the public. We see social media, WhatsApp groups saying, what are the police doing? They're not doing anything. I think the public needs to know we are, especially in this last year, have never seen the amount of joint forces operations, the carjacking task force. We've been in the Port of Montreal. We have Peel police officers in the Port of Montreal coordinating with our partners there to inspect a lot of them. 50% of the cars stolen in Peel, we recover. It may take us some time, but a lot of work, and the amount of charges here are significant. As you know, in Peel this last year, we've doubled the auto theft unit. So a lot is happening, but some of it is not within our control, right? So this is why today we need to bring other people.
So what police chiefs need from the federal government, which needs to be acted ASAP without any delay, because lives are losing, cars are losing, borders are open. Last time you mentioned that guns are coming. On the Brampton driveway, the car was stolen with the LMG. So what action federal government should take ASAP?
The quickest and easiest one, as you hear Deputy Milanovic said, if we put even a small amount of resources at the ports of exit, we will start to recover vehicles, and we will potentially bottleneck the theft, right? That is the most immediate way. We can work on legislation, we can work on auto manufacturers, the design of cars, but we believe even just a small amount of resourcing in the Port of Montreal or intermodal stations, we can reduce it before it leaves, right? And then we can also use the information we get from the investigations and work backwards to how and who is doing it locally. There's so many opportunities there.
So you want to make a comment on catch and release policy, like police catches and it's released, catch and release multiple times, and bail reform, we know with effect from January, we heard there's a new bail reform, but the condition is the same.
Yeah, yes. So, part of the problems is that the theft of a vehicle is seen like a theft of a lawnmower or property, or, something more expensive, obviously. Our ability to have, legislative changes, even the courts to see it as part of the big organized crime picture might change how the jeopardy looks like. Right now, it looks like a young person who stole a car for $500, right? And we want to make sure we change the totality of it. So yes, that is a big problem for us. There are times where people have to be released, but there are times where we know repeat violent offenders or repeat offenders that are involved in this type of activity that are even coming from out of province, that are already on charges, if they were held in custody, might have prevented it.
How serious is this issue? Is this the national crisis or auto theft? Because now this is not an auto theft, this has become more dangerous. Invasions in the home, even on the Brampton driveway, the car was stolen with the LMG. So how you see this as a national crisis, and what is the outcome of these kind of auto summits? Because already we had 3 in the last 1 year.
Yeah, listen, it is an epidemic. It is very serious. The type of violence that's been committed has been increased as they've adapted and changed, and it is national in scope because cars that are stolen here in Ontario and other places in the country are exported through different ports. So we're all affected. You see, here today, you say, what's the value of this summit? Part of it is to reassure the public that the policing sector for sure are working together, and we do have great partnerships with the public sector, also with government. Mayor Brown had said, they were slow to act, but they're in all feet right now, and they're providing resources and willing to help us solve this problem.
Deputy, when it is too late, as the Mayor Brown also said, Chief also said, it's too late if federal government acts now, because most of the damage has already happened. What is the reason that federal government or MPs or the province, they are not acting, and they have not acted in last 3, 4, 5 years when our cars were going out of the country and Canada became a bigger source of stolen vehicles, and there were suggestions by the Peel Police Board also that let's stop the export of the used car. Let's make CBSA a part of it. And still, politicians, they are making mockery of this system also, but we don't see actions on the ground by the federal or province.
So listen, as with respect to how long it's taken, all I can tell you is this: in the last year, certainly, both the provincial government and the federal government have been on side. Today, Minister Varani was here. Minister Kersner, through the Ford government, has been there from day one, supporting the policing sector through grants, through funding, through encouraging the joint force task forces to deal with this issue. So you know what? They're all hands on deck right now. They are part of this. They were here today. They've heard the issues we had. They've heard the solutions. And if you would have heard Minister Kersner today, he himself was pushing towards the private sector, the automobile industry, to make sure that they're doing what they can, as well as encouraging the courts to make sure that they deal with repeat violent offenders, so that it is not there's consequences to the action. So I think it's at a great start. Chief Dirapas mentioned today that last year the summit had a sort of a different focus. Same maybe same topic, but it's changed, it's iterated. I think it's a more coordinated approach right now, and we are making progress. You heard the stats, so there has been progress, and we are working with our partners in all sectors, including the government.
One of the Toronto police officer recently mentioned in that video gone viral across the
Yeah.
country that keep your keys on the vehicle before you go to sleep. How you see that statement? Whether what was that statement in a different context, or really he means that keep your keys so that you can save.
So thank you for the question, because the officer's been vilified for a soundbite, a snippet. What he was trying to say and get across was, do not put your safety or your family's safety in front of somebody who's broken into your house to take your car, to steal your car. The focus should be, instead of misinterpreting a soundbite, the focus should be on the criminal that put that family or our citizens in jeopardy, breaking into the house. That's the focus, not the officer who's trying to help somebody understand this and try to deal with it. It's traumatic when you get your car stolen, and people want to do as much as they can, but these folks have shown they're armed, they're dangerous, they'll hurt you. So his message was, not to leave it in the door or on the doorstep with a cup of coffee and something to eat. No, just, do not put yourself in front of somebody who is broken into your home to steal your car.
And what is your message to the Canadians, to the Torontonians, to the Ontarians, those who are watching you, when they say that police is not doing anything? That is, we are into the circles. Every day we see multiple carjackings, home invasions, violent carjackings, and people, Canadians, they are at this moment, they are not happy with the governments, with the politicians. Being a deputy chief of Toronto Police, what is your message to Ontarians?
So I'm not sure that the general public feels that the police aren't doing anything. As you've heard from the chiefs that were here today, we're at the back, and once a car is stolen, we get involved, and we do we can to make sure that we recover the property, apprehend the folks that are doing this. And as a sector, we are coordinated. As I said earlier, it's a multi-sectoral approach. We all have to work together to make sure that we do this. But through awareness, we're trying to get the community involved to make sure that they understand that there are some things that they can do to help this. And hopefully together we can make Canada a less lucrative target through legislative changes, through bail reform, through consequences to criminals who are doing this.
If you want to make accountable into this, because this is a heinous crime and happening for last many years of the carjacking and violent and home invasions, whom you will say that party is accountable? The government, federal level, the province level, or police forces? Who is accountable on this? These are the Canadians' questions. Who is accountable for these mess?
The criminals are accountable. The people who do this, who perpetrate this crime and create victims, they're the ones that are responsible for this. Together, all those levels that you talked about, together we're trying to solution this. I hope you and the public that may be watching this are encouraged by the fact that we're all together saying the same sort of things, right? It's not one entity that can solve this. We have to do it together. But really the blame and the focus should be on the people that are doing this. And behind them is organized crime. This is not just a property crime. It's not a 15-year-old who's stealing your car because you left it running, going to the mall and dropping it off. These are violent people who run from the police, who will drive dangerously, put other people at risk on the roads. That's where the focus should be. That's where the blame should be.
And what Ontarians should do on this? What they should do if they see these kind of activities, home invasion and the carjacking, the violent with the arms, what they should do?
Listen, there's a lot of proactive stuff that they can do, and of course call the police. And I think we are getting the calls from the public. What they should not do is put themselves at harm. It's not worth getting injured for your car. Cars, it's a valuable piece of property, probably the second most expensive thing that people buy outside their homes. We're a large country. People commute. They rely on their cars to get to work, to get their kids to schools, and all that kind of stuff. So it is a huge impact. But what they can't do is again jeopardize their safety or their family's safety.
Okay, and police also has the barriers. They can't cross that. And public, when they call the police, that's their complaint also. That many times police don't reach. They said, "It's a car is gone. Just call your insurance." They don't show up to put that report also. That is also concerned by the Canadians.
So I don't know if that's the reality. We're not telling people just to call insurance. That's something that we would take an occurrence, we would investigate, because we understand what this is about, this car theft and what's behind it. And when you asked earlier about, is this a national issue? It is, because it's organized crime. This is, again, just not somebody, stealing an iPhone. And that's bad enough as it is. It shouldn't happen at all. But this is bigger than one person. There are organized people who are paying criminals lots of money to do this. There's big money to be made, and we have that's where we have to we have to step in to make sure that it's not lucrative. It's not easy to do that.
Are you seeing that government should step up? They should do more because already it's too late. So they should do now before the elections next year.
No, listen. The politics of it. Like I said, I'm very encouraged with our federal representatives that are here today, Minister Varani, as well as Minister Kersner. Like the provincial government and the federal government recently have stepped up and are talking about this. They're putting money at this. They're encouraging police agencies to partner, doing all we can to do this. So, try to be positive and look at moving forward, not looking back. Right? We need to get on top of this together as an entity, both the policing sector and private sector and the government, to reduce the incidences of car theft and carjacking.